what will happen is I'm going to do a short introduction of you, and once I've done a short introduction of you, I'll turn to you and we'll just begin having a conversation.
Okay.
This is a talk show, so, and you don't have to look at the camera. You just
Gotcha.
But if you want to, that's fine. And do raise your voice. This is because the audio needs to have.
Let me turn the air conditioner off. We don't need
No,
that.
no, it's okay.
You have background noise.
It's okay. And I don't want you to get hot.
Well, it won't be hot. That'll give you a much cleaner sound.
Oh, okay.
I know that from radio work, so.
That's nice. Wow. Great. So we're going to begin very shortly, and you'll be speaking tomorrow, right?
Yes.
On
I'm speaking tomorrow, and I think I have a reading tomorrow as well.
yes, that's let me see. Wait a minute. This is
3:30 or something like that, 3 o'clock, somewhere in the afternoon.
How? Why is it that this is old news. This is old news. I'm always getting old news. Sorry. I just got to get the update of. Yeah, that's right. And Dillon, but you're not giving a speech. You're only doing a reading, right? Presentation.
No, I think that's my presentation, and then the next day is a reading.
Next day is a reading. No, it's tomorrow that is your reading.
Oh, tomorrow's a reading. Presentation is when?
Yeah, the same day. You're doing a presentation
Okay.
and a reading, I think, on the same day. Because wait, Dillon McKinsey. It's Friday. Friday. Oh yeah, you're doing it on a Friday, during lunchtime.
A reading.
A reading.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lunchtime.
Tomorrow's the presentation. Friday's
That's
the
right.
reading.
So what are you presenting tomorrow?
I'm the title is Poetry in Business, Business and Poetry.
Oh, poetry in business and business in poetry.
Right, and the subtitle is An Ekphrastic Perspective.
Oh, phrastic.
Do you know what ekphrasticism is?
No, I never heard of that.
Poets who write about, let's say, a sculpture, that's an ekphrastic piece. It's the blend of the arts.
Oh,
Two different arts related to each other. So I'm considering business as an art
okay.
as against a science.
We should talk about that. All right. We shall. You're on to me now. Okay. I gotta watch. I gotta watch my time. Okay, great. You ready?
I'm ready.
We will take there'll be two takes. The first take is only about 1 minute or less, and the second take will be all the way, just to warm up.
Sure.
1, 2, 3 test. I'm Robin Stienberg. Welcome to the National Critics' Choice. The National Critics' Choice, the Stienberg Review. 1, 2, 3 test. Okay. And I pronounce to you, address you as Dr. Dillon McKinsey, right?
Just Dillon McKinsey, not doctor.
Why not?
Well, whatever you want, but I'm not a doctor.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. So, Mr. Dillon McKinsey.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, we'll do that. So, great. 1, 2, and 3. Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News. I'm Robin Stienberg, and welcome to my Stienberg Review show. And today we have a very special guest with us right now, all the way from the United States, and he's none other than Mr. Dillon McKinsey, who is actually a nationally, sorry, this is cut. First take. Wait a minute. Okay, I had to condense this because
Key items would be lifelong poet. I have a weekly radio show.
Yeah, that's right.
Past president of the Austin Poetry Society. I don't know how much information you want, but
No, I just want to address this few things. So okay, 1, 2, and 3. Take 2. Hi, welcome to the National Critics' Choice Online News, and welcome to the Stienberg Review. I'm Robin Stienberg, and welcome to my show. And today's guest we have here right now next to me is Mr. Dillon McKinsey, who is an accomplished poet, and also he's also a talk show host back in Texas, known as Coop Radio 91.7 FM. and he's also have published a lot of his works, including the Wall Street Journal, and he's also the past president of the Austin Poetry Society, and he's also currently editor for Ardent, the poetry journal for poetry in the arts. Now, he's going to tell us more about his lifelong journey and also poetry in business. And apart from that, you are going to get more secrets from him very shortly. Mr. Dillon, welcome to my show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
And it's been a real pleasure to have you here back in Singapore. I know that you have been very much a well-traveled man for many years.
I enjoy coming here especially.
And now, Mr. Dillon, tell us more about your life as a poet. How did you got your inspiration to write poetry?
Well, I grew up in one of the more rural states in the United States, up in the northern, next to the Canadian border, called North Dakota. And that's a state that is primarily agricultural, and I grew up on a large cattle ranch. And so I instantly fell in love as soon as I was old enough to know what love was with Mother Nature and all the beauty of nature and all of the things around me on that ranch. And so my grandmother had a library of wonderful books, including many poetry books. I began reading those, and I put the two together at a very early age.
Wow. Now, when you first got this inspiration to be a poet,
Mm-hmm.
Who were your mentors, that helped you along the way?
Well, at that age, I didn't have any people, in terms of living people, mentors. I had poets who I read who I was much impressed by. First of all, Tennyson, great British poet, and I loved the music of his poetry and the way that he made the words sing.
Huh.
And so I became very fascinated with how language could not just communicate ideas, but could also communicate emotions.
Huh. Now, speaking about emotions, and speaking about the way it's been communicated,
Mm-hmm.
in many sense, was there any one instance where your family felt that they were not so supportive towards your interest in poetry?
Well, my father was a farmer, rancher. My mother both were college educated, so they knew the arts and appreciated the arts, but they were not, let's say, jumping up and down when they found out I was writing poetry. They didn't discourage me. They didn't say, "Oh, that's a bunch of junk," but I didn't really get any live human encouragement until I was in high school, and then I had an English teacher who was very encouraging to me.
Oh, wow. Amazing. Now, in the business of poetry today and in the past, how has that changed? Now, can anyone pursue writing as a business, or even or as a lifelong journey as part of their lives? Because poetry these days, even books these days, people find it hard to comprehend that. Hey, it's going to be
Well, one of the things about poetry that makes it a little bit unique is that, let's say that I discover that I like to draw. I can go to any number of stores here in Singapore and get pencils and charcoal and books about how to draw, how to make a face, or how to do a flower, and there's lots of literature out there, and I can get all the supplies I need. Let's say I want to be a sculptor. I can go to any store here, probably in Singapore, that sells art supplies and get the things I need to be a sculptor, the tools, the clay, etc., etc. Same for pottery, same for painting. I can go buy all kinds of paints, watercolors, oil colors, all that stuff is there. If I want to be a poet, what store do I go to buy my supplies?
That's a good question.
Yes. And so poetry is a little different that way. However, and for all the other arts, there are many, many books out about, how to draw a face, how to paint a picture, how to sculpt whatever. So there are a lot of books out about the other arts, how to do them. Like we're being videoed, there's books on how to make a video. Thousands of books how to make a video. Not many books on how to write a poem. But there are some, and there are some excellent ones. So the poet is a little bit at a disadvantage. And I think also when a young person might say to their parents, I want to draw a picture. The parents might say, "Oh, that's wonderful. Go ahead, draw a picture." I want to make this clay into an animal. Oh, that's wonderful. Go ahead, make an animal. I want to write a poem. What? Again, it's not received as easily because poetry, almost by its very nature, seems to be a bit more serious than playing with modeling clay or finger painting, the other arts that are equally artistic, but we just seem to be able to relate to them a little easier and get into them a little easier. Poetry kind of stands off by itself and makes us have to think, well, how do I do this? The way I learned to do it was to read great poets. And I fell in love with the way that they wrote, the sound of their words, how they made ideas come alive. And poetry is condensed literature. It's different again from novel writing, fiction or nonfiction, whatever you want. You know, that you write a novel, it's 400 pages, 500 pages, whatever, long piece of work. Days to go through and read it. A haiku is 17 syllables.
Wow.
And yet I can share with you a haiku that will make you think for days.
Really?
About what it's saying. See?
Huh, that's
and
interesting.
so poetry has this power to hold. It's kind of like the nuclear force of the arts. Everybody else in the arts is playing with TNT. We got nuclear power in poetry. And so a little bit of words in poetry can make an immense statement. And that's how the words are used, because poetry has things that other kinds of literature don't have. It's not that some literature can't use some of the poetic techniques. Like you may have read a novel where there's a passage that seems very poetic. That's fine, but the whole book isn't poetic. Just that passage is. Good poetry is poetic through and through, and when you read it from start to finish, you have encountered this amazing piece of work that has a potency you never dreamed it had when you first started it. You may read a book and say, "Oh, it's a great book," but you read a poem, and a really good poem changes you.
Amazing. Now, how has poem changed your life, and the lives of others? And what is poem to you by definition?
Well, what is poetry is a really, really almost obnoxious question, because it depends on who you're talking to. There are people, I have books over there where one person says anybody can write a poem. I tend to disagree with that. I might agree that everybody has some poetic potential, but I don't think that everybody can write a poem, any more than I think everybody can paint a picture, not a good picture. In the art world, you might see an elephant with a brush in his trunk painting something. That's not art. That's an elephant painting a canvas. In the world of poetry, you might see, in fact, in Austin, where I live, it's probably the poetry capital of the Americas. There are 2 or 3 poetry venues every night of the week, public readings of poetry every night of the week. And yet you will go to those and you will find that, let's say there are 20 poems read. There might be only 2 of them that were worth listening to. You could go to one that's better, but a lot of it, there are people who come who think they're writing poetry. They've not studied it. They haven't really tried to learn it. They're kind of just venting, just dumping their words. And you can tell the real difference between that and those who come and really have crafted what they are writing, taken the time to study poetry, to learn what poetry is, and then to develop their own ability with poetry. So to say what poetry is a little more difficult, because there are many different kinds of poetry. In terms of forms, there are many different forms of poetry. You've probably heard of a sonnet or a sestina or a haiku. Those are all different forms, and they all have their own little rules. And once you learn those rules, I liken it to being a jazz musician. I don't know if you know jazz at all.
Yes, of course.
So the jazz musician has to learn his instrument. Let's say he's a saxophonist. He has to learn that saxophone inside out. And that means learning to play specific music, specific notes, no improvisation, learn the instrument. Once he gets that, then he can go and play a piece and jazz it up, as we would say. You know, he can leave the sheet music behind and play that song and really make it into something that's totally unique and amazing. The same is true with poetry. Once you have learned what poetry is, studied great poets, and developed your capacity with words, knowing how to use words, what sounds of words do for a poem and so forth, learn about meter, which is the rhythm in poetry, or the lack thereof, then you can begin to craft poetry that will have an impact on people. So.
Okay, now let's move on. How did your organization?
Something is beeping. What in the world?
Just give me a moment.
I think it's my alarm clock over there.
Yeah.